Hey guys, welcome back to, I'm going to say the first episode of the Centre Circle because we attempted last week, but it didn't quite work. Um, and obviously, a lot happened on that Saturday um, after we recorded, which obviously we'll touch on a little bit. Obviously with regards to Christian Eriksen, really glad that he's okay, and we can say that he's actually been discharged from hospital now. So yeah, brilliant news. Guys, how are we?
Yeah, we are all right, thank you. How are you, Joe?
Yeah, all good, mate. Toby, you all good?
Yeah, I'm doing good, mate. I'm doing good. I think that I've had some, from last week's unreleased pod. I've had some good predictions and I've had some bad. So I'm looking forward to discussing those.
Yeah, we'll definitely touch on those. I think I've got my notes somewhere, so we can go over them a little bit later on. I think what we'll start with, just because it's really fresh in our memories and it angered me quite a bit. I'm not gonna lie. Last night's game, England nil, Scotland nil. Toby, what are your initial thoughts on that result?
Well, you know, I wanted to say something last night when you were on one on Twitter, but I thought I'd save it for the pod because this is going to be quite the debate. I think England's performance last night, I didn't think was that bad at all. I thought it wasn't spirited. Don't get me wrong, but plucky little Scotland, and that's their cup final, and we held them really well. And I thought there was times where England teams of old would have lost that game, whether it be 1, 2, 3 nil. The I think it was the O'Connell volley that Pickford saved low to his right was a really big turning moment for me in that game because another day we would lose that game. But England team of new, we found grit, we found determination, and we managed to get through it. Even though I would say that's probably a tougher game than what Croatia was.
Yeah, Ryan. I mean, I saw your face as Toby was saying it was a decent England performance. You looked horrified. Um, what do you think about that?
Well, my unpopular prediction last week was I thought England could walk away with 0 points. Obviously, I'm glad that hasn't happened, got fourth in the opening two matches. But what I said about the Scotland match, I think is very relevant to what actually happened last night. I think Scotland came down to the game, they were more up for it. I think the second balls they were much more in for. And I understand why Toby's saying what he says, but let's be real. Had Scotland had a proper finisher on the pitch, as opposed to Che Adams, who's a good player but not a finisher, had Scotland had someone who could finish, they'd have won that game 2 or 3 nil. And that's where my objection lies, because I knew Scotland would be a tough game, but the fact was, it was such a tough game that in reality, if we play like that against the Czech Republic, if we get through, if we play like that against a bigger team, can you imagine giving the chances we gave to Che Adams to Cristiano Ronaldo? No.
But will we play like that against a bigger team?
Well, logically, this is our Scotland. This is the game which Scotland would have been pumped up for. And I think that's where I mentioned the Czech Republic last week. I think that is going to be what defines the rest of this campaign. Because I think at this point it's safe to say that England will probably get through the group. But then it's a case of the Czech Republic. I think if England are going to have a chance of going on to do something, they've got to beat the Czech Republic and they've got to do it convincingly. Because that game last night, well, I think mentally could have drained some of the players.
Yeah, it needs a reaction. That's the only get out clause that these England players have for me. I'm not gonna get too angry here, but you know, the media are building this up all week to be the game of the tournament, the one we're all waiting for. No, it's the one Scotland were waiting for. This was, as you say, Toby, this was their cup final, and they're out in Leicester Square, absolutely destroying the place, celebrating a 0-0 draw. Right? Oh, just yeah.
Listen, there's no hiding it on on face value, and 0-0 draw. It's not a great result for us. We expected to put three, maybe four past them. The matter of the fact is they turned up looking really good, I think. And I think you can say, oh, well, England were rubbish or they couldn't finish or there's a lack of goals in the team. Not true. Scotland, I think, just played really, really well. And you knew they were going to. You know, it's rarely a time where Scotland don't show up against England. I'm not worried one bit. England still gonna get through the group, gonna turn up in the knockouts. I'm still standing my prediction. I think we win the tournament. I think was it Portugal in the 2016 Euros. They won it, if I'm not mistaken, and I think they won it all through 1-0 victories. And in the groups, I don't even think they won. So we're still in a better position than they were when they won it. So I say hold out the faith. One bad result against Scotland is not the end of the world, and we still got a point from it. And you know what? I think England teams of old would have lost that game. So I'm sticking with the boys.
Yeah, Ryan, you look like you've got a burning question.
It's not as much a question; it's a long rambling point. No, but the whole thing for me is, I imagine we're going to touch on the Croatia game sooner rather than later. But I think the Croatia game, there was a lot of, even I question like Mings starting, Phillips starting. You know what? Southgate got it absolutely spot on. I've been a critic of his, but you've got to hold your hands up and say fair play, you got it bang on there. Scotland though was the Southgate that I've come to know and wish he wasn't there, because at times I'm going, and I'm intrigued to see what you guys think, but does Southgate have a plan B? Because it felt like the substitutes he made were like for like swabs, in the hope that the same players could come on. You know, by the time he brought Grealish on, Scotland's defence was settled. They had the wing backs. Admittedly, Robertson played very well, but Scotland were very settled. And bringing on Grealish wasn't going to disrupt that because of the time they'd had to gel and sit back and deal with England. And it's just going, against Croatia, everything was spot on. Here, I'm questioning every little thing he's done because ultimately, in a game that you're coming out thinking we should be getting at least a win from this, you're questioning like, why didn't he bring Grealish on earlier? Why did he take Kane off when the team needed some leadership, perhaps? There's lots of questions to ask, and I'm intrigued to see if you guys echo my point, because I know, Joe, you're not exactly getting a tattoo of Gareth Southgate on your stomach tomorrow.
Absolutely not, and I wouldn't get a tattoo of Gareth Southgate on my stomach, mainly because of the fact that he doesn't pick Lewis Dunk. But that's a completely, you know, that's not important right now. What's important
that's the Christmas
is
special.
Absolutely. What's important is, as you say, right, a plan B. You know, we're 0-0 against Scotland. 9 times out of 10 in an England game, if you're 0-0 against that sort of caliber of opponent, you're thinking, all right, we're gonna find a way to get a goal. You know, we're gonna bring on someone. We're gonna change the game. We'll come out of this quite frustrated, but comfortably winning 2, maybe 3-0. And as you say, he brought on like for like substitutions. I don't think they were like for like substitutions. You take off Kane and you bring on Rashford and you play him centrally. How long has it been since Rashford played centrally?
I do agree to an extent. I don't think that Southgate got things wrong that game. I think the whole reason we lost that game is Kane dropped a stinker. Completely anonymous in that game, and I had him down as top assister and player of the tournament. I really regret making that prediction now. He has so far dropped stinkers in both games, realistically, if we're being honest with ourselves. Maybe there's an element of lack of fitness or something, because he really doesn't look himself. And I think the system that Southgate's playing actually would suit him, but he's really not looking himself. Whether I'd class Rashford as a like-for-like substitution, not too sure, because Rashford's the sort of player that likes to get in behind. But again, Rashford kind of dropped a stinker. He wasn't on the pitch for long enough, I don't think. You know, if he starts the game, maybe he does better. But I just personally think that you cannot pin this on Southgate, personally, and people that are calling for his head. Did you, Joe? I think you might have.
Yes. I've said Southgate out for the last 4 years, mate.
I think it's unwarranted because he has got a plan B. I think.
I think the problem with the problem with football fans, and I'm so guilty of it as well, is that we're so fickle, right? So we'll beat Czech Republic 3-0, and I'll be, oh, Southgate is coming home, Southgate, you're the one, you know. I will be all over it. But as soon as we drop a stinker against bloody Scotland, you know, their cup final, probably our cup final as well, because I'm not gonna lie, I've been hyping myself up for this game all week. I've been so excited. I've been like, yes, we're gonna beat Scotland. We're gonna finally shut them up. We're gonna shut up the media. That's another point. The media are so toxic, it hurts. So toxic. All week. Oh, Scotland. Oh, how wonderful they are. Oh, Wales. How wonderful they are. England. Hello, ITV and BBC, for crying out loud. England is the main country in this tournament. We are the ones that are going to go far. Why are you building Scotland and Wales up, who, if they don't go out of the groups, they're going to go out in the next round?
Actually, it's a good point to raise, because not only the tabloids, but the commentary, I think, has been dreadful. Ali McCoist and Graham Souness should be ashamed of themselves. It was so biased. And you know, I like supporting the home nations. I do. I really do want to see them do well. I'm half Scottish. I have family in Wales. I have family in Northern Ireland. You know, I like seeing all of those people do well. But come on, ITV. That was all Scotland commentary. All the build-up was all the Scotland fans and how much it means to Scotland. Let's have a look at England here. We've got our best chance in years of winning a tournament, and you're not even focusing on us a little bit. So I have to agree with you on that. But one thing I cannot agree with you is Southgate is still the right man for the job. And I think you'll find with Brighton, for example, Graham Potter, people didn't start calling for his head until about halfway through this season, when we weren't finishing our chances. Our expected goals numbers were up, but our goals were way down. With England managers or with international managers, they only get a very few selection of matches to have a look at before people start calling for their head. And, you know, Southgate's qualifying campaign has been unbelievable for me personally. And yeah, I say we stick with him through this tournament and probably the next.
Ryan, take it away.
The qualifying campaign. No, we lost our first qualifier in 10 years. The Czech Republic came from behind to beat us. We conceded 3 goals to Kosovo. No, yes, we got through, but bear in mind the likes of Hodgson, Capello, they were winning all the qualifiers. But whole thing is,
Roy Hodgson, I'm just going to cut in there. Roy Hodgson delivered. So yesterday was the second worst England performance I've ever watched. Roy Hodgson delivered the first worst performance I've ever watched. Iceland. Don't talk to me about Roy Hodgson and say that he was good for England when he gave us that performance.
Just a rebuttal there, though. If you think that a 0-0 draw to Scotland is the second worst performance you've seen, I don't know what you've been watching over the years. We've lost games to shocking nations.
I'm saying it out of pure passion after it only being less than 24 hours ago, I think. You know, in 2 days' time, I'll be over it. But right now, I was smacking my pillows. I was punching my sofa in frustration. I just couldn't believe how frustrating it was. I saw a heat map of the players or expected position. Sorry, Ryan's just put his eyes up in.
Looks like there's been
Hungary
a
are
goal.
beating France.
Sorry,
Hungary are winning against France.
I tweeted this.
Stoppage time at the end of the first half.
I tweeted this. I said that Hungary are going to cause an upset, and there you go. Who scored?
I'm just having a look. It's only coming up to half time. Looks like it's Fiola, number 5, because he's just got the most slaps on the head from the fans.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'll be
Chris
over.
Kamara. It's unbelievable, Joe.
Our match reporter today.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll be over the Scotland result in a couple of days' time. Anyway, yeah, I saw a heat map of our players. We had a massive void at right wing, huge void. Hardly any heat in that position on the pitch, and you've got Jadon Sancho on the bench, and you don't bring him on.
I was devastated for him. I was, and I agree with you. I think Southgate. I'm not going to say Southgate's perfect. I think he got that wrong. Sancho could have added a lot to that game. I think, especially with the way he opens up defences, and Scotland were really compact, so he would have made a big difference. But I think the calls for his head are unjust, and I think it's only one mediocre performance. But actually, I think it was quite good. I think the grit they showed was actually really good.
I'm actually going to go on record and applaud Scotland right now for making me get so angry.
That's what they do.
Because they set up, as you say, Toby, they set up so well against a team that have so many world-class players in their squad, so many players that can open up chances. Mason Mount, Jack Grealish, Raheem Sterling. Sterling was weak as anything. But then you've got to credit Scotland for that. Andy Robertson, Hanley, unbelievable grit and determination to stop us. And yeah, I was watching them how they were setting up, and what is it? 10 players behind the ball at all times probably, except for when they were attacking. Yeah, they were just a massive dark blue wall, and there was no way we were breaking that down.
I think part of the reason that we were quiet on the right wing is probably due to Andy Robertson as well. I mean, by far Scotland's best player. We're not going to try and focus that area, I guess. So maybe he thought that it wasn't the right time for Sancho because of that, and maybe he comes in for Czech Republic. Obviously, it's a tournament, so you've got to keep your players fit at the end of the day. I'd like to see Kane rested for the next one. Maybe he just needs a little nudge in the right direction, bring him back in around the 16. I think we get through the group.
Ryan?
Right. Well, following on with the last thing Joe said, I think last night is of real concern, because if you look at the players we had on the pitch, Foden, Mount, those kinds of players are the ones who are meant to produce the moments of magic. And it's where I feel, because I predicted Lukaku and De Bruyne a goal scorer and assister, and they are doing me well here. But the fact was, those two could quite easily, in my opinion, carry Belgium to the latter stages of the competition. Just De Bruyne and Lukaku. They could easily do that themselves. And when you've got players like you said, we've got a squad full of some world-class players. And ultimately, I say Scotland had a great game. They were emboldened, they were impassioned. But you're also going, was there not one player who could play some sort of killer ball? Just do something. Because we had some chances, but to be fair, if you're looking at sort of the best 2 or 3 chances of the match, they fell to Scotland. And I just think that against a team like Scotland, it's worrying. Well, we did create things, but against Scotland, it was worrying how little we created, I think, which is what concerns me going forward. But hopefully against Czech Republic, as I say, I've expressed my concerns about that, but hopefully against Czech Republic, it will be a bit more open. Players like Mount and Foden will actually have space and actually have something to create with. So,
yeah, well, I went with Jack Grealish as my player of the tournament. I don't think he gets a full 90 minutes this tournament, if I'm honest. I don't know if he's fully fit. I'm not sure. He was obviously nursing an injury before the Euros. He had ice packs on his shins after he came off against, I can't remember who it was, Austria, was it?
He was training alone, don't forget, as well.
Yeah, so that prediction for me is completely out the window, especially if we top our group and we come up against the likes of France or Portugal in the round of 16.
Or Hungary.
We can't write Hungary off right now. What is it? Is it half time?
Yes, it's 1-0 to the Hungary boys. Way!
We're gonna go to Ryan live in Hungary.
Well, thank you, Joe. It is a lovely afternoon here in Budapest.
Oh, brilliant! I wish we were there. I'm craving going to one of these games, and yeah, the start of next season can't come soon enough. But
Cannot wait.
Yeah.
Cannot wait. I wonder if we should go over our predictions then and see, what we've got right so far and what we've got wrong. And I'm happy to start. Everyone's dark
You
horse.
start.
Everyone's
Go,
dark
go,
horse.
go.
Everyone in the whole entire world, their aunties, their uncles, their granddads, their grands, everyone had Turkey as their dark horse. I had them as a flop, and they have stunk it out. The whole tournament has been stinky for them. They look dreadful, and again, I think it's due to the lack of experience. I said last time, they've got the youngest squad actually in the tournament, and they have been stinking the place out.
I agree. They've been so one-dimensional. They've just been pumping it up to Yilmaz. Come on, main man, get on the ball. No, you cannot have one man try and take his team, like drag his team through a group stage, which their group stage is tough.
I mean, for me, it's the example I always use is Ivory Coast in 2010, 2011. You look at the players they had. They had Yaya Toure, Kolo Toure, Solomon Kalou, Didier Drogba, but unfortunately they faced one problem, is that no one good wanted to manage the Ivory Coast. Consequently, they did nothing. And I think that's where this Turkey squad is. There's no doubt players like Soyuncu, Yilmaz, they've got some good players in their ranks, but unfortunately, fact is, if you tape a ball of cats together and call it a cow, it's not going to work. Turkey just seem to have no tactical nous whatsoever, and expecting that they'll just knock the ball forward and other teams will just sit down, let them get through, and they'll be able to work off that. And to be fair, the people who predicted Turkey to be dark horses, I don't think they predicted that half the coach would never have heard of football before, because I think it's becoming more and more apparent he came here to coach volleyball. Just whack the ball long and wait.
Oh man, these analogies, Ryan, you're killing me. You're absolutely killing me. What was that? A bunch of cats, you don't make a cow. That's brilliant. That
Yeah, you can't tape a bunch of cats together to make a cow. Remember
I love
that.
I'm going to use that. So my flop, I had as Germany. I can't judge that yet. I'm sorry, I can't. If they play one game against France, they lose 1-0 narrowly. Maybe they should have lost by more. There was a couple of VAR decisions in there. I can't make a prediction on my flop at the moment.
To be fair though, they looked poor. I mean, I watched that game and they looked poor. I'm not even just talking about the own goal. I mean, their passing seemed sloppy. When they were on the edge of the France box, they were there and they weren't penetrating at all. I don't think they've got the same sort of attacking. You remember the Miroslav Klose, Mario Gomez era.
Yeah.
Where they would always have a target man or a poacher in the box, but it just looks like they're built from the midfield now, which if you don't have the firepower, it's not going to work. And Timo Werner is not the firepower, I'm afraid.
No, definitely not. And I think even France were only in second gear in that game. They've got 4 or 5 more gears that they can go up. They are a force to be reckoned with. And what are they playing tonight? Are they playing today? They're playing today.
Germany are, but yeah, France are losing 1-0 to Hungary.
Oh, that's who's losing 1-0 to Hungary. Right. Okay. Cool. That's out the window then. A force to be reckoned with, and Hungary are beating them. Oh my days! Just show me the door right now.
Even Southgate's better than you.
How did you have your dark horses? I forgot how they were set up for you.
My dark horses, they're going quite well, and I think Ryan had the same dark horses as me. We got Italy. Was that right, Ryan?
I predicted.
I was Italy.
I predicted Italy as my winners. The team I predicted as my
okay.
dark horse, not doing so good.
North Macedonia, was it?
Yeah, and North Macedonia, I mean, fair play. 37-year-old Goran Pandev, he's gone and he's done his job, hasn't he? But I think it's been like, when you're at the park playing a match with your mates, and that little 12-year-old kid comes along and begs to play with you. Like, bless his heart, he's trying, but he's just not good enough. Macedonia,
Or free opposition.
yeah, Macedonia are like poodles trying to intimidate Rottweilers. Bless them for trying. It's nice to have them here, but seriously, lads, you're wasting your time.
Yeah. Ryan, again, you are killing me with these analogies. I don't know how many more you've got in your locker, but I'm sure we'll find out. Funnily enough, my golden boot. You're all gonna laugh at me. I don't know if you can laugh at me, but based on the performances that he's had, you probably will. Harry Kane.
Yeah. I had him not as my top goal scorer, but I had him as my top assister and player of the tournament, thinking bag goals and get assists. Hasn't been like that at all. He's dropped 2 stinkers. I'm really, really disappointed. You're looking up to him.
He's dropping into bloody centre-back, for Christ's sake. Probably not that deep. I'm probably exaggerating there, but he is dropping so far back. When you've got players on the edge of the box ready to cross the ball, I'm looking in the box and I'm thinking, it's alright, Harry Kane will be there. Where is he? At fucking Tesco's? Like, it's a joke.
He's so deep. He's so deep, and it's... That's why I thought he'd be the top assister, because I knew he'd come deep this tournament, but it hasn't worked for him. He needs to go back into his poacher role, exactly how he was at the World Cup, where he's constantly available for any balls that are bouncing around the box, but he's just never there. He's never in the box.
No, completely non-existent, and it's really disappointing to see so far, and I pray that he bags a couple. Even if he starts, I personally think that his position is in jeopardy against Czech Republic. If Dominic Calvert-Lewin comes in and bags a couple of goals, can you drop him? Everyone was saying Calvin Phillips is now undroppable because of the performance he put in against Croatia.
I mean, he's been quality.
Ryan,
you're shaking your head.
Well, it's not because... I remember when Southgate first came in, he said, I'm going to be picking on form. He dropped Wayne Rooney, dropped Joe Hart. This was something you wouldn't have seen under the previous regimes. Then he does things like leaves Jesse Lingard out of this squad. But the whole thing is, he will not drop Kane. Frankly, Harry Kane could have both of his feet nibbled off by piranhas, and Southgate will still put some boots on him and tell him to get out there and make a nuisance of himself.
But this is where there's a little bit of a grey area. He said he'll pick players on form. He didn't say what form. Could have been shit form, which by reckoning
could have been uniform.
Exactly, except for Ben White. Again, Brighton biased. Except for Ben White, none of these players have been on form this tournament. Ben White hasn't even played, and he's been the best player.
I mean, if we're gonna go back to the picks, then you're arguing the wrong thing here, because he picked Ben White, which is the worst of the 3 English Brighton centre-backs, to be honest. Although I think he's one for the future, and I'm glad he's getting this experience, he's definitely not at the level Lewis Dunk and Adam Webster are for me personally throughout the season. But Southgate, no, I think he'll drop Kane. I think DCL comes in, hopefully he bags, but if he's doing Southgate's system and he has to drop deep, Calvert-Lewin won't bag. No one's gonna bag like that. And I know I'm a Southgate fan, but you can't let your striker drop deep, especially not for England, when people look at the striker and go, well, if we've not got goals, it's his fault. And it's just ruining Kane's morale for the rest of the tournament, for the rest of his career even, maybe, because you see how quickly it goes downhill, especially with the media. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, I mean, I moan about the media, but, I think every fan is guilty of making players feel like it's completely their fault. And, the amount of stick that I've given players, for me, when I look back at it, sometimes it's unforgivable, because at the end of the day, they're only people trying to do their best for their country, and if they're not getting the service and support around them, how can you expect someone to perform at the highest of levels? If you go to your job and you've got 10 people stood around you, like slating every single mistake that you're making, you're gonna make more mistakes. Your morale's gonna go down. You're not gonna want to go in the next day. If you've got 10 people around you that are saying, "It's all right, mate. Don't worry. Go again next time." Different story.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. I'm still confident of a good rest of the tournament for England, though. I don't see this Scotland result as being the be all and end all. And in fact, if anything, the players were probably like, "Oh, Scotland are so motivated for this." They probably psyched themselves out of the game, thinking that it would be like some like prime Scotland that are really going to show up and destroy us. So I think that we just defended as well as we could as well. I think both sides were set up to defend.
Yeah.
And I'm quite happy with that.
I mean, we can be as negative as we like about the Scotland result yesterday, but let's be a little bit positive and just cast our minds back to when football was coming home and knew where his keys were. Croatia, the Croatia game, I think we handled that occasion incredibly well. Especially under the circumstances at Wembley. They're a team that beat us 3 years ago in the World Cup semi-final. That could be in the players' mind still, albeit we've got quite a few fresh players that didn't play in that game. But you've got the likes of Kieran Trippier, who thought that he'd sent the nation to a new high when that free kick went in. And to have that moment ripped away from him, that's surely still in the back of his mind. So yeah, I mean, the Croatia game, I think every single player earned themselves at least an 8 out of 10.
Wholly agree. When you look at the stats as well, it was an even game on balance in terms of shots and possession. But England actually had 1.5 expected goals to Croatia's 0.3. Now, whether or not you're a fan of expected goals or not, I think it's a really good marker as to the quality of your game. And clearly, England made good chances that game to completely outdo Croatia, as well as keeping them quiet at the back. So I was quite happy with it, and I think it has set us up to build on. 2 clean sheets from the first 2 games. I'm absolutely ecstatic with that.
Yeah, definitely. Ryan, what was your take on the Croatia game?
I think I'm a firm believer of credit where credit's due, right? I've had a moan about Southgate so far, but against Croatia, he got everything spot on. I think Mings had a great game. Phillips absolutely ran the show. And I think shut up a lot of the doubters that day. I think the substitutions were well timed. I think bringing on Bellingham when we did was key to making sure we got the win, because his energy in the midfield just sort of closed Croatia down. A tiring Modric just wasn't able to have his magical touch. And that day, I think he got everything spot on. This, from the starting lineup to the tactics employed to the substitutions made and when they were made, everything was just perfect. And I think that's probably why, last night got to me so much, because against Croatia, we saw Southgate at his finest. We saw good football, which was played by a good group of players. The substitutions and the tactics were absolutely perfect. And so to see it last night, had you showed that to 2 different people, to the same person, and said, these are 2 different teams, they would have believed you. Because there was just such opposite performances from the dugout and on the pitch. So hopefully, when we play the Czech Republic, which I feel like won't be as sort of as pumped up kind of match because of the whole rivalry between England and Scotland, I'm hoping when we play the Czech Republic, it will be just like Croatia, where we see more of the ball, we employ tactics, keep the clean sheet, make them work for the ball, time the subs well. I think I'd like to see Bellingham given a start, because I think he can really add an injection of pace, of power into the midfield, add an element of unpredictability. And particularly if you're playing with Sancho as well, there's the Dortmund link, which I don't think can go unnoticed. So I think Croatia was an absolutely brilliant all-round show. And I think if we can replicate that at the Czech Republic, then carry that momentum into the next round, I think Southgate hit upon the winning formula against Croatia. If he can replicate that, obviously tweaks to the lineup, depending on who we're playing, but if Southgate can replicate the tactical awareness, the lineup and the overall tactics to nullify the other side, then we'll win matches, because we don't need to win the game ourselves. If we nullify our opponents, we've got the quality to go and just do it out of nowhere. Czech Republic, we stopped the Czech Republic scoring. Like, okay, they've got Matej Vydra, Souček, okay, good players. But if you give the ball to Mason Mount 35 yards out and he's got some time to think about it, then something's going to happen. We don't need to work as hard as they do. They need to come and break us down. We just need to be patient. And I think if we can hit that formula again, then I think my prediction of us going out in the group stages will look like utter tosh. So I think there's a realistic chance of us going far.
I think that's what was missing yesterday, was patience and belief in our own quality. We were looking to just take the game to Scotland, which I think it was the wrong thing to do, because Scotland were wanting us to do that. They were saying, okay, yeah, play into our hands, and we'll just hit you on the counter, and we'll just hit you with our passion and our pure grit and determination to get something out of this game. And as you said at the start of the podcast, Toby, if that was another England squad of the past, we lose that game. And yeah, I completely agree with that. So yeah, I agree, Ryan. We just need to go into this Czech Republic game with completely fresh minds, get the Scotland game out of the way. At the end of the day, say, look, that's 1 point. If we end the group on 7 points, for me, looking back overall, that is a really good group stage for us. If we draw against Croatia and then beat Scotland and Czech Republic, that's a good campaign. That's a good group. We've beaten Croatia, so expectations are suddenly really high. We should be beating Scotland 3-4-0. No, okay, we don't quite beat Scotland. We'll take a point. We'll go again.
I was actually going to say that to you as well, Joe. I'm sure we'd all have much wider smiles if we had drawn 0-0 with Croatia and beaten Scotland 1-0. So context is really important with that one, and I still think 4 points from the opening 2 games is a lot that we could ask for. I think I'm really happy with that. I wonder if we should do predictions for the next game then.
For the Czech Republic game. Yeah, cool. So I'm not gonna base it off of last night's performance. That's, for me, that was a one-off. And I'm gonna leave that at the door now and move on. Like I think all England fans should. I understand the frustration, but let's get behind the boys again and go again. I think if we do that, if we go in with no pressure, which there isn't any pressure on us really, take the pressure off, lads. I think we win that game comfortably 3-0.
Yeah, I mean, I think that on the points we're currently on, I think we're probably good enough to get a 3rd place qualification now anyway. Actually, with Hungary getting this 1-0 result, I'm kind of scared now if they finish it. But I'm still pretty confident of 4 points being enough. I mean, before the tournament, I thought 3 points would be enough to qualify in 3rd place. So I am happy with that. I'm not sure what you two think about that. But going for the Czech Republic game, I fully back Southgate and the boys to come home with another clean sheet. I think it'll be 2-0. Southgate will say to the boys, we need to start scoring. He might even start Kane again and say, Kane, this is your last chance. This is the easiest team you're going to get from now until the end of the tournament. Make your mark. Show me why you should start against the Frances, the Portugals, and I think he'll take it. I think it'll be 2-0, Kane penalty and Kane header.
Yeah, no, completely agree with that. Can see that happening. Ryan, your prediction, what do you think is going to be the score?
It's a tough one because, obviously, I mentioned it the other day that Czech Republic were the last team to beat us in competitive play. I said at the time that was the worst I'd sat down and seen England play. And despite last night, it still is. And I'm just trying to have a look at something here. I should have prepared this earlier, and I apologise for that. But trying to look at the England lineup of the last time we lost, because it was in the most recent qualifying campaign, and Yeah, so the England lineup that day, it was Pickford in goal, Trippier, Keane, Maguire, Rose, Henderson, Rice, Sancho, Mount, Sterling, and Kane. And bear in mind that our goal came through a 5th-minute penalty, and they held on not just to get an equaliser but win the match. And so my worry, and I will get to the scoreline, but my worry is that they managed to stop an in-form Kane. This is an out-of-form Harry Kane with his head down. That could, I think, that they know how to deal with him now. That could really be a problem. And I think as well, obviously we've got Foden in there now, but if the Czech Republic can keep Kane quiet and just put a little bit of pressure on our attacking midfielders, suddenly our options are really limited. Because Kane isn't just the finisher, he's often the hold-up player. He'll keep the ball while other players come through around him, almost playing the number 10 role at times. And honestly, you look at the Czech Republic lineup, I mean, we all saw Patrick Schick's incredible goal against Scotland. I mean, that is going to live long in the memory. So it's a tough one for me, because I don't want to predict England to lose it. But you know what? Just to avoid any controversy, I'm just going to say 0-0. I don't think we're going to break them down. I don't think they're going to break us down. I don't think that's too controversial, because I'm not predicting them to win, so I'm just going to go middle of the road 0-0.
He wanted to predict an England loss, though. He wanted to.
He really did. He was angling towards it.
He never wants to predict an England loss. Just logically, unfortunately, it feels like it might be, but I'm not going to, because I'm at home and I hope football will be coming to join me soon.
It's completely different circumstances to when we last played them. I know it was a qualifier. I know there's was it a European qualifier or World Cup? European.
As for this tournament.
For this tournament. So I know it's obviously a qualifier for a tournament, a major one. But you've got what, 10 other games to play in that campaign, to put it right. I think because it's such different circumstances, that's why England are going to come out on top. They're going to want a reaction. They're going to want to show why they can go far. They're going to want to show what the hype is about with football coming home, etc. So yeah, I have to say, Ryan, I'm afraid I disagree, but that's what predictions are about. It's all about agreeing and disagreeing, and that's why we love football so much.
Well, one thing I will say to back Ryan up, though, is I think Czech Republic have had a great tournament so far. The fact that they're above us in the group, we shouldn't count them out as maybe I am doing. Maybe I thought about going for a 2-2 draw instead of a 2-0, but I think we'll score 2 goals, and I don't see us breaking our clean sheet record just yet. And you know what? Our group at the moment is really, really giving me Portugal 2016 vibes, because we're finding a way. We're going to find a way out of the group. Round of 16, I feel like we're going to find a way, whether it's win on penalties or a 1-0 victory. I think we'll come across against a really hard team and we'll find a way to do it. And I think it will just be all the way through. Everyone will keep saying, England, keep finding a way. Surely they can't do it all the time. They can't keep getting lucky. And I think we will.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I can't bring myself to disagreeing with that. I want to believe you, Toby. I want us to do as well as we possibly can. But we can only see what happens. I think what we'll end on is, based on what we've seen across these first couple of games, one game, is, are your winners of the tournament still as you would predict?
Absolutely. I predicted Italy, and I mean, the Italians have just been sumptuous so far this tournament. Mancini's got them purring like a cat. I'm using a lot of cats in today's episode, but the fact is that the football they're playing is just exquisite. I think was it the other day, Locatelli, just absolutely sublime. Italy just, some teams we talk about forcing their way through. For Italy, it just feels like watching them. It's going through a walk in the park on a nice day, isn't it? They just pass around you. And I just think that level of class and sophistication, matched with the ability that the players have, just can't be overlooked. I think honestly, I think they're going to just win every match this tournament, no extra time. And if there is extra time, they're going to win it. So as much as I'd love to say England, 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 I just realistically cannot see anyone other than Italy winning this at the moment.
Fair play, fair play. Toby, who did you have down as your winners?
Well, two points to raise actually. I had England down, and I still believe. There's again the clean sheet record's really doing it for me. I feel really good the fact we've not conceded. I know there are other teams that haven't conceded so far as well, and that's not of concern to me. I think we look solid at the back, which is something an England team hasn't had in generations. But the other point I'd like to raise is how wrong I was with my unpopular opinion, and I can see why it's unpopular now. I had Portugal down as one of the worst teams, one of the least likely to win it, and they looked amazing. I completely doubted Ronaldo. I thought it would be Grandad Ronaldo, and he came out. He scored twice. And Joe, I know you had that in there, so I feel like an absolute wally. I'm a loony for predicting that.
You can never, ever. This is what I've learned from this tournament. You never write off Cristiano Ronaldo, because he will come back and he will prove you wrong. I don't care if he's 60 years old. He will score a hat-trick. I don't care.
Ronaldo will give the eulogy at his own funeral. He'll just get up out the coffin and do it. Because that's just kind of player Ronaldo is.
Exactly.
And then bag a hat-trick while he's doing it.
Exactly that. Yeah. Right, Portugal, you need a man. I'm coming.
Yeah, he'll probably walk off with his brother's wife afterwards. He'll just get up, do the eulogy, leave with his brother's wife. Because that's just what Ronaldo does.
Okay. Not yeah, that's one hell of a claim.
If I'm right,
I'm not
though,
sure what
you'll
to
all
say
be
now,
weeping.
Ryan. Thank you.
If I'm right,
you've left me speechless. You have left me speechless.
I think that's a good place to end in that case.
Definitely. I think all we can do, lads, is just hope and pray that England have a reaction and come back and show us why we believe in them so much. I'm really looking forward to the rest of the tournament. I think the football... actually, one more point I'm going to make. A really quick point. The officiating in this tournament has been unbelievable. Absolutely spot on. And
Chef's kiss.
VAR, for me, I sometimes I've been like, have we even got VAR? It's just not the forefront of the attention. In the Premier League, it takes all the attention away. There's VAR checks for farting, for God's sake, you know. Really spot on, and I hope that continues.
I mean, I'd like to add another thing before we leave as well, and that's just, should any football clubs or any people that are linked to football clubs, or even if you just support your local club, are listening to this, check with them if they have defibrillators. If they're doing a donation run, I would encourage you to donate. If there's a local sports centre, even for children, I would encourage you to suggest that they get a defibrillator if they haven't already. And I really, really think that, if any awareness that we can raise, push it, because Christian Eriksen, miracle story, he's alive. Thank you to all the medics and all the players that helped him. Simon Kjær, hero, made sure he was all right, covered him up, consoled his wife. Really glad to hear he's okay, but I bet there's people up and down the country, up and down the world, that don't have access to the same sort of medical care, and when they're just playing sport, having the time of their life, they could just lose their life there and then through that same exact scenario. So any local clubs, please consider donating to them if they don't have one. Please, if they're not running a donation scheme, please ask them to consider if they haven't already got a defibrillator.
Absolutely spot on, mate. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Ryan, yeah.
And that's just where I want to say to Steve Cook, former Brighton defender, current now at Bournemouth captain. He's a Hastings United ambassador, and he recently funded local club Hollington United. He's recently funded them getting the defibrillator. He's covered all the costs. So on the off chance, Steve, that you are listening to this, you're an absolute bloody hero, mate. You know, obviously, we pray, we hope that they'll never have to be used, but if they are, then that has saved a life. So Steve Cook and anyone that's donated, and Steve, with your influence, hopefully you've encouraged others to donate as well. So thank you on behalf of the Hollington United of Hastings, just everyone, for leading by example and showing what to do.
I can only echo that because I grew up literally a 10-second walk away from Hollington United's stadium. So yeah, that's unbelievable that a Premier League footballer that's so close to home, and that's what brings, obviously what happened to Christian Eriksen. That's what brings it to the forefront. It could happen to anyone at any time. So as Toby said, as Ryan said, thank you to everyone who's pushing the awareness for this sort of thing, and as Toby says, continue to do it because it's so important. And obviously to Christian Eriksen, we hope you get well soon. Really good news to hear how well he's doing. And yeah, at the end of the day, any player in this tournament, he has to win player of the tournament for me. It has to go to the whole Denmark squad for the way they dealt with that. Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
Well, what I will say is I know FIFA do a fair play award, and I think if that doesn't end up with Simon Kjær for everything he's done, then I think they need to be disbanded as an organisation, because the guts that takes is just, I can't even imagine. Sometimes you like to say, oh, I understand. No, I can't even say that. To be in that situation, I can't even imagine. So to Simon Kjær, for being the player, to make sure he hadn't swallowed his tongue, for being the leader there, if there's an award for fair play, an award for character, just give it to him, because he is the kind of example that if people are going to look up to footballers, he's the kind of player they need to look up to.
Him, and special mention to Kasper Schmeichel as well, because that man has been through so much in football. So much. And he carries on being the most incredible leader I've ever seen. And he is... I've seen so many interviews with players on Kasper Schmeichel. He says that he is their rock. Every time. He was the first person to run out to try and help at the helicopter disaster at Leicester. He was the first person to run to Christian Eriksen's wife when it looked like Christian Eriksen was taking his last breath. To show that to show that courage and determination to make sure every single person in connection with him is okay. He is so strong, and yeah, a massive special mention to him as well. Spot on, lads. Hopefully another one next week, and another podcast next week, and everyone obviously stay healthy and enjoy the rest of the tournament, and we'll see you next time. Toby, cheers mate, and later. Ryan, perfect.
Bye now.
Bye.